You have all your eggs in one basket, and you're limited to the investments that the new 401k currently has.
Greg from Little Rock's first up on the show today. And he writes to us, I have about $1.8 million, but it's scattered among multiple different 401ks and an IRA. What steps should I take to consolidate/simplify my accounts without creating a major tax event? Well, Greg, thanks for the question. Consolidation is a key thing to consider, especially as you get a little closer to retirement. I think about client stories here that I hear all the time. I have one client that really became more focused on consolidating accounts after dealing with the estate of her deceased father, because he did not consolidate accounts. And she had to go so many different places, make so many different phone calls to round all that up and figure out where everything was as the executor of the estate. So it can be very important to have it all in one place. But let's walk through the different scenarios and the different things you need to consider before making decisions if you have dollars in different retirement accounts. So he mentions the IRA. We'll kind of take that off the table for now because it's kind of where it's going to be, right? I mean, it could change custodians, it could change advisors, but the IRA is going to be the IRA. Let's talk about, John, the multiple different 401ks.
Yeah, if you've got a lot of different 401ks, we kind of call them orphan 401ks. If you have an orphan 401k, meaning that you have left it behind at an old employer, then you've got some choices to make. Now, you've obviously defaulted to leaving it where it is, and you can do that. There's no law against that. There's no, condemnation on that or anything of that nature. But to be more effective, you might consider consolidating that into your IRA account. If you don't have an IRA account, creating an IRA and almost making that IRA your lockbox, if you will, of all of your retirement accounts that you have out there. If you can kind of think about this as your timeline of working, and the average American has 7 different jobs throughout their lives. And so if you leave 7 different 401k plans behind, then what you've got at retirement is a big mess that you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I actually turn this into an income plan? So what we oftentimes ascribe to is the idea of just rolling those dollars over into an IRA account and taking it with you as sort of your IRA account, and the employer account becomes your account at that particular point in time that you separate from service. So in this case, Greg in Little Rock has several different IRA accounts spread across different custodians at different jobs that he's worked at. So let's talk about what's going on with Greg right now. More than likely, he's getting all those statements. More than likely, he has lost touch with what is really going on in each of those individual plans, and probably doesn't have as up-to-date information as he needs to have on the investment options and all of the plan provisions. Just imagine trying to manage all that stuff at one time. And I think the IRA does give you some consideration there, but there are options that you have. First of all, as we said, you can leave it in the old plan. Secondly, you can transfer it to a new plan where you work. Most 401k plans allow for transfers of your old 401k into the new 401k. There are pros and cons to both of those ideas, and the obviously you are keeping up with it if it's with your current 401k, but you have all your eggs in one basket and you're limited to the investments that the new 401k currently has. So Scott, there are things that you can do. You can leave it in an old plan, transfer it to the new plan, transfer it to the IRA. But I think universally, one of the things that I think Greg alludes to here, and what we never recommend to people unless there is some dire emergency, is cashing out that 401k.
Yeah, so without creating a major tax event is a goal of Greg's. And if he leaves it in the old plan, if he rolls it to the new plan, or he rolls it to an IRA, that is not going to create a taxable event. Cashing it out would. And I don't think from his question here he's thinking about that. But for everybody else listening, that's the one thing that you're going to owe taxes on. And if you're not 59 and a half, you're even going to assume an early withdrawal penalty of 10%. So you could, in essence, lose 40% of that 401k balance by cashing it out. So that's almost never an option. You'd have to really be in an emergency situation with nowhere else to go for money before we would probably talk about that option. So one of the things I want to talk about too, you talked about the options. We're fond of saying rolling it to an IRA opens up the investment universe. There's almost there are some restrictions, but there aren't many restrictions to what you can access from an investment perspective once it's in an IRA, because it's in essence self-directed. You get to make some choices there from the investment universe. You are fairly restricted, quite restricted, in fact, by leaving it in the old 401k or even rolling it in to the new plan, because the average 401k plan has about 10 to 12 options, and that's it. And it may or may not help you reach your goals. The other thing I would say, if you do make a choice to roll it into the new employer plan, in most cases, you haven't put a lockbox on that. You could actually revisit that. So for people listening today who said, well, I rolled that into my new plan about 5 or 6 years ago, oftentimes if you look at your statement, they'll divide the money that came in outside the plan from the money that you've contributed to the plan since you've been an employee there, and that actually might still be eligible to roll out into an IRA.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I think that one of the things that we could talk about with this question is a story that I've seen play out. I'm the old guy around here, so I've got all the stories. I've got tons and tons of stories. But I have seen on several occasions people come in and they're ready to retire. Mentally, they're ready to retire, but they have accounts scattered all over the place. And we literally spend sometimes weeks trying to round up statements, trying to figure out where those accounts are. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. Didn't I work at that place, honey, a long time ago? And I think we still have some money over there. It's a mess. And so to keep that kind of tidy as you go through your career and working at various places, to use that IRA as sort of that catch account for all of your 401k plans, to me makes a lot of sense, because then when you are ready to retire, you can take that one IRA and then plan based on the balance in that one IRA. Now, you're going to be very diversified inside that one IRA. If you got $1.8 million, obviously, you don't want to have all of that in 2 or 3 funds. You want to be in a situation where you can be highly diversified. But I do think that by employing that trustee to trustee transfer from a 401k to an IRA avoids the tax issue. And then I think that you've got to think about not going it alone when it comes to trying to deal with this and trying to get yourself in a position that you are ready to retire. Managing that 401k toward retirement makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the final piece to the withdrawal strategy, right? How do you have a withdrawal strategy if you have accounts in 6 different places? Just from the RMD standpoint alone, when you reach RMD age and have to make a required minimum distribution, you have to consolidate an aggregate balance among several different places that you have money. So those are other reasons that you might consider consolidating. Definitely don't go it alone. Reach out to an advisor. We'd love to help you here at Gen Wealth, walk you through the ready to retire process and help you out with those decisions. And if anybody else is thinking the same thing, if they're in Greg's position, maybe it's not the $1.8 million, but maybe it's old 401ks laying around that you don't know what's happened to them. Give us a call. Reach out to us, 866-653-PLAN. It's 866-653-7526, and have a discussion with a Gen Wealth financial advisor.